to this session this afternoon. We're talking about project data analytics and really how you can be an agent for change. So my name is Dr. James Smith. I'll just give you a very quick introduction. So I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Projecting Success. I've come from a very technical background, so I'm a Neo4j engineer, a data scientist. I'm also an apprenticeship tutor as well on our level 4 data analytics course, and I'll talk more about that later on. I've got more than 10 years experience working with data analytics and machine learning. I've got slides are moving on their own. That's a bit disconcerting. I've got a PhD in applied mathematics and a few other degrees. I'm an ex-maths university lecturer as well. So what are we actually doing this afternoon? So I'm going to introduce you to, I guess, the topic, project data analytics, and give you some definitions. We're going to talk about what project data analytics is for. We're going to talk about some good practice and some case studies, who it's for as well. So you may be thinking, this isn't necessarily relevant for me, but I'm going to talk to you about why it's relevant for everyone. And then I'm going to give you some tips on how you can really start your journey as well. So what is project data analytics? Now, if you look at the image on my slide, this is the program information for Crossrail, and this can be divided into two different categories or classes of information. So you've got the technical information and the control information. Now, the technical information we're not worried about at Projecting Success. This is the stuff like the asset inventory and drawings and designs, 3D models, etc. That's all relatively well, I guess, reused. But it's the control information, so the schedules and costs, the contract administration, change control data, risk management data, etc., that's really an exhaust plume from ultimately from the project. And this data can be reused. We strongly believe it can be reused to actually improve the delivery of a future project. So fundamentally, what project data analytics is trying to do is leverage our experience from our portfolio to improve future project delivery performance. And something that can be a little bit damaging, I guess, with project data analytics is just comparing it to dashboards. Project data analytics is not just building dashboards on top of existing data and connecting it to Excel files. It's so much more than that. And it's really around, the capturing of the information, the transformation of that data, where it's stored and the architecture that you use to do it, automation, so how we're moving information around and capturing it as well, cleaning it, how our data and etc. is all hosted, and the analysis that takes place as well and the insights that are extracted. And then also the skills and strategy required to actually execute all of that, because so many companies are stuck in this descriptive analytics stage, where we're looking in the past at what happened, what were the numbers for the last quarter, that kind of sentence. And without the skills and strategy, we really can't mature and make our way up the analytic value escalator into predictive and prescriptive analytics. Now, most of you are probably looking at this thinking, I know where my organization or a company I worked with in the past sits on this graph. And that's why it's such a nice, easy, kind of digestible graph for us to work with. And we're going to talk about this in more detail later on. But really, we aspire to be, further towards the right-hand side. That's what project data analytics is going to allow us to do. But most of the industries are really sat on the sort of descriptive, maybe diagnostic stages. So what's it for? Project data analytics, that is. And really, I'm going to tackle this initially from the kind of company industry perspective. Now, this is a piece of research done by or executed by Side Business School with Bent Flubier and Alex Budsier. So they've got a big portfolio of projects, a lot of data they collected, nearly 12,000 projects. And one of the insights from their analysis concluded that 0.5% of their projects was on budget, on time, and on benefits or better, which is a pretty shocking statistic. So 1 in 200 projects is actually, delivering what they said they would do. And what we're really trying to do with project data analytics is improve this. So we really believe that 0.5 just isn't good enough, and data analytics is the key to moving the dial on that percentage. And we also believe that certain types of project are more predisposed to variance than others. So if this is again piggybacking on a bit of research by Ben and Alexander, so if you look at a few different types of project here, so say Olympics, nuclear, dams, IT, their mean cost overrun, so the second column there, is significantly higher than solar power, for example. So these types of project, given a new one, you could say with relatively high certainty that the cost overrun is going to be high. Whereas if you look at the mean schedule overrun, then projects like, and I'm just reading them off here, mining, buildings, IT, dams, nuclear, again very high. These projects are really like to overrun in terms of their schedule. Now, this doesn't really help us understand the causality, and we get that from the conditions, the work breakdown structure, understanding the teams, and capturing all that information. So we know there's a problem, but we don't necessarily know how to solve it, and that's because we're not capturing the right information. We haven't got the right skills. We're not set up to do this properly yet. So that's what it's for a sort of an organization, or maybe even kind of industry level. But how does it really benefit us as an individual? Now, I mentioned that we run a Projecting Success and Apprenticeship. That's a level 4 data analytics course. So we have 180 learners that have been through the course, and these are just some of the learners have put together like a small sentence just to talk about how their roles have changed, so the benefits for them as an individual. And I'm just going to pick on the strategy and performance analyst from CISC, but feel free to go ahead and read the other ones. So since starting the apprenticeship, my role within CISC has adapted significantly, as I've been able to develop a skill set which aligns with the gathering pace of change in the business and the wider industry. I entered the industry with an engineering qualification and strongly believe that the engineers of the future will need to be comfortable with working with data in order to drive efficiency and effectiveness. Thanks to Projecting Success, I feel that I'm well placed to face challenges and opportunities in my career moving forward. So this is just one example of an engineer, really understanding, recognizing the value of data. I got a hand up in the chat. Yeah, feel free. Go ahead with your question. Not sure who it is, but I can see a hand up. Feel free to ask me a question, not a problem. No. Okay. Hand's gone down, not a problem. I will be asking for some questions at the end as well, so we will try and have 5 minutes, so that's not a problem. What I want to do next is maybe just gather a bit of information from you. So I really want you to answer this question: what can project data analytics do for you? So what I'm going to get you to do is please head to Menti. This is really important. I'm not going to ask you millions and millions of questions. I can see a question appearing in the chat. I will get back to that, don't worry. But I would really appreciate it if you just head to menti.com and put in the code 68627117, and hopefully we can start looking at some of your results live. Again, there's a QR code. It was on my screen. Hopefully you had a chance to scan that. I can always jump back to that if that's helpful. You just point your phone camera at this, and you should be able to. It should take you straight to the Menti quiz. Again, the code is on my screen, 68627117. So the question I want you to answer is, what can project data analytics do for you? Remember what that engineer from CISC said it was around kind of allowing him to, utilize the data that's at his fingertips. So we've got a few different things rolling here. So inform future project management, improve delivery of projects. Absolutely, that's what project data analytics is for. Understanding project health, that's really important. Forecasting, yeah, so moving up the Gartner analytic value escalator, so into sort of predictive and prescriptive analytics. Improve confidence in project reporting. Risk management is going to change massively. I really think that anyone involved in risk is about to go through, a significant change in what risk management is actually all about. Improving metrics, how to set up good data capture. So yes, so many companies are still using, dare I say it, like paper forms. Maybe some of them are starting to use kind of bespoke Microsoft Forms or Google Forms, but data can be captured in so many different ways, passively and actively. And the creation of apps has just exploded in the last few years when it became kind of low or no code using things like PowerApps, which we will talk about later on. Loads of really useful things here. So somebody's still not sure, not a problem. Hopefully you have a better idea over the kind of next 45 minutes. Somebody wants APM certification, increases my chance of getting a job. Yeah, absolutely. Real-time project control, identifying process improvements. Yes, that's again really important, understanding kind of where the blockages are. Understanding what brings the value in and how to improve it, streamlining project process. So many useful things here. Obviously, we will go through this in more detail after the call and process it a bit more, and it might form some of our blog posts. That's really helpful. Thank you so much for engaging with that. I really appreciate it. If you're still not quite sure what project data analytics is or what it can do for you, then we're going to talk about some practical things, some tools, how you can get involved. So if you're not 100% sure how to answer that question over the next 45 minutes, I think I will really help you kind of frame your answer. So don't close Menti, keep it open. We will be jumping back to it in due course. So I'm going to talk about some case studies and good practice. Now we have our project hacks. So in case you're new to the community, you don't know what they are, they're a 2-day event. Some of them are virtual, some of them are physical. Project Hack 13 was a physical event. We were in Code Node for 2 days. It was in February, I think, February 3rd and 4th, I believe. We had 240 people. We had nearly 10 challenges. These are problems that our learners on our apprenticeship bring to, thank you, James, for posting that bring to the event. And then we get members of the public and our learners. So these members of the public are part of our community. So they might be data scientists, analysts, engineers. They might be project managers with domain expertise. We get all of these people in the same room. I guess we get them to form teams, and then they go and solve these real world problems with real data over the course of 2 days. It is an amazing event to attend. I know that I'm probably slightly biased, but I really do think if the one takeaway from this is that you come along to a hack, I think that is a really good outcome for me, and I've judged that as being a successful session. If you're interested in data analytics and projects, then please do come along to one of our project hacks. The next one is a virtual event, but Project Hack 15 is a physical event where you can kind of you might get a bit more kind of collaboration and networking, and the buzzes are slightly different. So dates for that will be released shortly, unless Sophie, you're here, you know them off the top of your head. Oh, just been posted in the chat, just like magic. Thank you very much, James. So yeah, they really are amazing, and I've got a few, I guess, case studies of success from the hackathons coming up on the next few slides. So this is a statement from the Global Head of Data Analytics, Data and Insights and Analytics, a Senior Director at Gleeds. And so the quote from them is that hackathons have provided us with a mechanism for our digital transformation within Gleeds. It's accelerating our digital maturity and creating a real buzz. And Gleeds have got so much benefit from the hacks. They've bought 4 or 5 challenges now. And because of this particular individual, the senior director, being so invested and really driving these problems through, they've all been I guess deployed and operationalized within Gleeds. So they've created solutions and dashboards to improve some of their cost estimating. They've got tremendous benefit and they really accelerated their development because of the hack. So such a success story, and Gleeds are going to be taking place, going forward as well. This is a dashboard created by one of the NHS challenges. So in Project Hack 11, we had 5 competing teams, all working towards the same challenge. So the NHS wanted to know about their 10,000 project professionals, where they were located, what skills they had, etc. Just really understanding the workforce and how they could what skills they've got and how they could learn more about project data analytics as well. So a really interesting challenge. And one of the teams actually won this hackathon, Project Hack 11, which was back in September, October last year. We had Costain along to, again, one of our historic hacks, and they were using the SPONS cost book, which maybe means something to some of you in the audience. And they essentially took this PDF book and they pointed it towards Python, an open source programming language, to extract the information from the SPONS book into structured data so that they could actually start to do some of their cost estimating much more efficiently. So in the presentation they show, and you can look at all of these on the YouTube channel. So if you are interested in this, just Google Project Hack in YouTube, and please check out our YouTube channel because all the presentations are recorded. A previous example that would have taken 40 minutes to kind of cost up a bit of a job, using this new tool they created, was taking 5 minutes, which is obviously an enormous saving once you start to scale that across the business. Project Hack 6, we had Baker Hughes, and their challenge was creating a machine learning model to really help Baker Hughes predicting their activity duration variance. So there were 2 competing teams on this, working with a big data set provided by Baker Hughes that was anonymized. Again, was one of the winning solutions. They created a really accurate model to help them predict these duration variances. It's something that Baker Hughes actively pursued afterwards, and we worked with them to help them deploy it as well with the learner that we had from Baker Hughes. So again, a really interesting challenge and a great benefit for Baker Hughes in this case. So there are, of course, lots of different tools that are emerging that are really contributing to project data analytics at the moment. And at the moment, the market for these tools is just so vibrant, and it's exploding because things like PowerApps and PowerAutomate are suddenly giving people the power to build their own apps using no code or low code environments where that just wasn't possible 10 years ago. It was reserved for very specialist teams that had lots of experience, and now you can develop an app in 5 or 6 minutes. Really, that's how fast you can do it, and I've got an example of me doing that later on. And then deploy them across your company and start capturing data so quickly. And what we're going to do is just going to have a slightly closer look at a subset of these tools. So we're just going to have a quick look at PowerAutomate, Power BI, Python, and PowerApps as well, really to try and get you motivated and show you that these things are not reserved for the super intelligent, super skilled people with 10 years experience. This is putting the power in the hands of everyone. So Python is a very intimidating word to say to people. They're very scared about learning new languages, but Python really has so many different uses, You don't need to know everything about Python to start getting some value from learning a little bit of it. It's open source, so you can use it for commercial but also personal use as well. And like I said, it's incredibly versatile, so you can use it for building desktop applications, websites. More recently, it's got really good at building and deploying machine learning models using packages like scikit-learn automation. You can build games, you can clean data really easy as well using packages like pandas, which are just like bolt-ons for Python really. And of course, data analysis. I've got one quick example I want to show you with Python that I hopefully really resonates with the audience. So let's assume you've got 89 Excel or CSV files, it doesn't really matter. And your boss says, I want you to do some analysis on this data holistically. So let's say it's purchasing habits for a customer, and each file represents a particular customer's purchasing habits. And your boss says, what's the mean cost of all the products we've sold? So you need to put all these files together. Realistically, that's going to take you a long time to do it manually, but Python can do these things really quickly. So you can open a new file, iterate through the whole list, open these files individually as it iterates, and then transfer the information into an empty file, concatenating all of these files together. So this is a live demonstration, so hopefully it goes well. On the right hand side, this is called Spider. So this is an integrated developer environment running Python. This is just some code I've written. So this is the code here. There's these 24 lines of code that's just going to iterate through all these different files here. This is just my machine. So in here we've got the 89 Excel files. And what we're going to do is we're just going to output into this data folder in here. So I can just run this. You can see it will spit out all of the names of the files as it runs through them all. And then if we look in the data folder, we're looking for this file here, orders_concat. It's just been created on the 1st of March at 6 minutes to 1, so that's always promising. And you can see here's the concatenated file. Obviously opened on the wrong screen, but that's what happens when you're giving presentations. You can see here's all the concatenated purchase information for those different customers, and then you could easily do the analysis in Excel or in Power BI, whatever your favorite bit of software is from there onwards. So that's just one tiny example. Obviously Python could do an almost infinite number of things, but really so good at kind of translating unstructured data into structured information like that. And I've seen some of our learners on the apprenticeship do this with reports, and taking kind of weekly report information and rolling it up, taking images and text and extracting them into monthly reports. You can concatenate things like CVs, so it can help procurement teams building, structured data sources of CVs as opposed to just having PDFs hanging around all over the place. So many different applications. It really is very, very versatile. So that's Python. Next, I want to talk about next kind of piece of software I want to talk about is Power BI. And now this is visualization software. It's incredibly easy to use and powerful. Obviously developed by Microsoft. It's part of the Power Platform. And if you want to start playing with this, if you have 365, then you can download Power BI Desktop. Best thing to do is just download it from the store. So just press the Windows key, head to the store, search for Power BI. Then you won't have to worry about any of the updates. And then you can build reports, to your heart's content at that point. You just can't publish them to the service and share them with colleagues. You need Power BI Pro for that. But you can build dashboards and, start to do a lot of the learning. You just can't. The business model is that you need Power BI Pro in order to share properly. Power BI has become, I would say, the most popular piece of visualization software by quite a significant margin now, ahead of Tableau and Domo, etc., some of their competitors. And that's probably because the ease of use, the fact that people can start playing with it because they've got 365, and also the range of connectors as well is absolutely vast. And I'm going to show you a quick example of just how quickly you can build reports using, you know, the latest or live data. So this is Power BI desktop itself. This is just a blank report that I've opened, and I'm just going to show you how easy it is to get pull data in using an API. So I'm going to go to Get Data, go to Web, paste my API in there. This is an API that I've got from a government website. So the developer guide for coronavirus. So we're just going to look at some coronavirus data. The government are actually really good at keeping their data up to date, and they provide guides with how you build these APIs. So I've gone to the developer guide, and then I've used that guide. It's quite self-explanatory. I can point it out to you if you want me to paste it in the chat. And it's just a public URL that provides when you make a GET request, it just comes back as a piece of JSON, which Power BI can interpret and convert into structured data. Again, this is something that we would do with our learners, teach them how to use APIs and build them in this sense. And it just means that it's like making a query with the government's database. You're getting just a slice of data that you want back, as opposed to the whole database, which would inevitably crash everything. So I'm just going to right click on this, tell Power BI that it's JSON that we get back. And then I'm just going to expand this data list here. I'm going to convert it to a table. Happy with all those settings. And then just going to expand these columns. Click OK. And then I'm going to go to just close and apply. And it will load this data in. You can see it loads it into the fields here on the right hand side. The really nice thing about using this API is that every time I click refresh here, I'm going to get a fresh copy of that data from the API. So I'm not connecting to a static Excel or CSV file. Every time that the government update that database and I refresh this, I'm going to get a fresh copy of data, and I could publish this report to the server, and then I could set the automatic refresh to once every hour or something. And then I could pin that dashboard into a SharePoint site, and then it's just always live. So that's the kind of beauty of where we are with APIs and visualization software at the moment. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to convert some of these data types. So I'm going to convert this. It says it's text, but it's obviously a date. So I'm just going to convert it into a date here. Click OK. I'm going to convert these. These are obviously meant to be numerical values. It says text, so I'm just going to convert them into whole numbers here. Click OK, and then the same thing with these case numbers. Again, it says text. Just read in the data type wrong, so I'm just going to force it to being numerical or a whole number in this case. And then I can just make a plot here. So I'm going to make a line chart. And we'll drop some fields in here. So I'm going to plot my date along the axis there. Make this a little bit bigger. And then we're going to plot the number of cases and number of deaths, although that's a bit morbid, isn't it, along the bottom. And when I don't want this to be a hierarchy, I'm actually just going to set these to be just the data itself. Then you can see, you know, this is the data that Chris Whitty, etc., report on when we were having those evening briefs. This is when, I guess, the pandemic first, kind of the first wave. Testing was very poor, so it was obviously much higher than that, but we just didn't have the data. Then we kind of had the second wave, I guess Christmas time, 2020, yeah. And then this is, I guess, we're just sort of the last wave we've had at Christmas. And you can see this data goes right up to the 28th of February, so yesterday. And again, if I save this report and hit refresh tomorrow, I'd have, you know, the latest. I'd have, you know, the data from the 1st of March in there as well. So incredibly powerful tool, and just shows you how quickly really you can build these types of reports. So that's Power BI. I've mentioned PowerApps, and you know, within the when we looked at the Menti, there was a few comments there around kind of data capture. And what I want to show you is that how easy it is really to build these PowerApps. This is, again, I'm going to repeat myself, this is not for specialist teams that have been doing this for 10 years. This is really, becoming something that we can all, start to do. So PowerApps, if you've got no idea, it's a service for creating business apps, for capturing information. You can use them for, booking annual leave, conducting interviews, taking notes in meetings. You can use them for managing assets in the company, almost anything where you need to collect information from your employees or even externally. You can use PowerApps. And I've just got a demonstration here of actually building one. So this is just, you build them in the browser, just creating a blank app here from scratch. Just going to give it a new name. You can do this again with your 365. You just won't be able to use what we call premium connectors, but you should be able to follow along. Obviously don't do this now, but maybe when you rewatch the video. So just a completely blank app. This is the kind of building environment, and I've just dropped a background in there. So it's just nothing more than an image. And the first thing I'm going to do is connect my app to a data source. It's just in my OneDrive for Business. And it's just four columns of data. And it's just some personal information. Obviously, it's all faked. There's no GDPR issues here. No need to panic. So we've got a blank app with a background and some data connected to it. Now I'm just going to insert a gallery. You'll notice we've done no coding at all whatsoever. It's just drag and drop. A gallery is a bit like a table. So I said that there were 4 columns of data. I'm just going to show you. This is just how we visualize that data within the app. And I'm just going to add these 4 labels in here. PowerApps does this thing where it automatically predicts those names for you. So you can see it in the formula bar. It's got this item dot company, and it had email and name, and that's the attribute name in the data. And you can see as I of kind of editing within that box there, it's actually creating the different row of information below it. So I'm just going to change this to the actual attribute name. So I don't want it to be the data. I want this to say city as a string. This one is going to obviously be company. So I've got the attribute name on the left-hand side in that column, and then I've got the actual data entry on the right. This one's obviously going to be email. And then finally, I've got name. So you may be a little bit confused about what I've done here, but don't panic. Look how easy it is to change, things to bold. This is just like using Office. Change the font size to 16. I'm just going to add in a separator, so hopefully this starts to make a bit more sense. Like I said, I'm separating the rows of information here. And what we can do is just demo the app. So this is what the app would look like. Each one of those blocks is a different row in the data set that we've connected to. There's the data if you want to have a quick look. So all we've done really at the moment is just a way of just visualizing that information. Next thing I'll do is sort it. So a bit of coding here. We're just going to sort table 1. That's all the data in that gallery at the moment by name, by that attribute in an ascending order. So it's just going to stack all the names up from A to Z. You can see the first name there beginning with A, which is always a really positive sign. So just, again, very intuitive, very Excel-like coding. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to edit some of this data. So we want to create a form for adding in a new record. And we can do this using insert and then form. So I just connect my form to my data source. I pull in the fields that I'd like to edit. Of course, I want to edit all of them: city, company, email, and name. Just change how they're stacked up. So I'm just going to stack them up in 1 column, not 3. And then just changing the default mode. So you can edit fields, but we want to create new fields here. So this again has, you know, almost an infinite number of use cases in projects where you want to collect information. Just create a button, because that's what we're going to need to actually kind of trigger the creation of all this data. So I'm just going to call this add data, change the name of the button. And then I'm just going to, a tiny bit of coding here, but you can see how PowerApps predicts what you're going to write. So I just want to submit the form. I need to quote the name of my form. You can see it's there, called form 1. I start to type that, it also predicts as well. I just close the brackets, and then I want another command. So once the button's been pressed, I want to reset that form as well, because I wouldn't want the, you know, after you hit add data, you wouldn't have to go and delete everything within that form as well. So we're just going to close that, and then we can test it. We need to close that, or we won't be able to write information to it. So you imagine I'm using this app now. I need to enter data into this. I don't know, I'm onboarding someone or something. I need to collect some information. So I enter my city, my company, my email, and then finally my name. So this is what the end user would actually see with on a phone or a tablet or a browser. They've hit add data there. You can see the app is working away. Then it will reset the form. We can actually go and open example data here. So it's just been updated. Opening the file in Excel, and you can see it's highlighted there, row 102, John Smith at gmail.com, projecting success. So it's added that entry into that data source. So you can see that's how easy it is. That was done in real time to build an app that's from scratch, and it's you know, it's usable. It's not the most attractive app, but we did that in 6 minutes. Using, you know, very, very little coding, mainly kind of drag and drop, and using the kind of the clicking functionality within PowerApps. So it's so powerful. It really is not reserved for, you know, the super experienced. And 10 years ago, building apps, you know, it really was. So I want to talk about PowerAutomate as well. That's again another really powerful tool, sometimes confused with PowerApps, but this is really for the automation end of things. So this is cloud-based automation, can be used to, you know, remind team members to submit expenses on a certain date, notify you if your company was mentioned on a particular social media, but it can go a lot further than that as well. So we in Projecting Success use PowerAutomate, for generating contracts for our learners. So this was a very time-consuming task, collecting all the information and a lot of copying and pasting it into like templates. It was taking hours for, you know, our learning and development teams to make these, and also sending out the scheduled events from Excel files. This was a manual process, but now we can get PowerAutomate to ultimately run through that Excel file and send those invitations. And just a quick focus on the kind of contract generation side of it. So we have a Power App in the bottom left-hand corner that the L&D teams use. So they trigger that automation by hitting that big blue button. And the automation has already, the information's already been collected and is saved within a SQL database. So the information's been collected using things like Microsoft Forms, and the Power App goes and makes the right queries with the database within SQL Server, and then takes all that information and starts to enter it into templates, and actually produces the apprenticeship contract documents. So it literally produces a physical like Word document file, and also the learner plan Excel file as well. Again, fully populated with all the information that comes out of the database, saving, you know, the L&D time, the learning and development team, absolutely hours and hours and hours of time. So incredibly powerful. Now I keep mentioning that you know, there's low code tools, and these are really for everyone. And I want to kind of address this more formally and talk about, you know, who is this for? project data analytics, you might feel like, oh, that's not really my job, or, you know, I'm too senior or I'm too junior to do that kind of thing. Now, really, I think wherever you sit in your organizational chart, you need to know more about project data analytics, whether you need to understand it so that you can provide the strategy and leadership, or, you know, whether you are you know, that member from CISC that I mentioned, where you're using it day to day. You need to be using the tools and actually, you know, doing the analysis or building the apps or doing the reporting. So I think if you are at the top of that spectrum, you need to work out an as-is state for your business, and you can't do that without really understanding what's possible. Then you need to develop a roadmap for getting there, work out how you're going to get funding. You know, you need to have resilient sponsors and champions. You know, is this going to be you? You need to make sure you've got the right governance in place, because otherwise it's going to be a free-for-all and they're going to be apps all over the place. Have you got the right skills and know-how? You know, do you need to put people through bits of training, etc.? How are you going to do that? And have you got the right licenses, tools, data architecture that you can actually build off of? You know, at the moment we've got learners at director level on the course because they do really just need to understand this, you know, and drive it down from the top. But then equally, if you're not near the top of that spectrum, and that's probably the best way I can put it, then you need these tools for, you know, on skills for a different reason. Companies are really moving from this model on the left-hand side where we had specialized teams for this stuff to this is the kind of traditional model on the left, to this kind of modern hybrid way of working where data capability is fed into the existing teams, and then those little squads are actually responsible for, you know, developing apps and dashboards and automation and reporting and analysis. Obviously there are going to be, you know, data scientist teams for, you know, the really difficult, challenging machine learning tasks, but so much of the day-to-day development and maintenance can be absorbed by the kind of wider team. And really we're seeing so many companies shift towards this. This is why it's so important, you know, that everybody starts to learn about data analytics and how we really can make the most out of data, because, you know, development is being federated at quite an alarming rate. And you might be thinking, you know, how do you start your journey? You've got some options. You know, what do you actually do with it? Do you kind of look at some ad hoc experimentation, which is great? You know, Udemy is an amazing source. Especially if you look at things like Hot UK Deals, you can always find free courses because somebody else has done all the hard work and found them for you. Stack Overflow is incredible, but you know, can be outdated. This can be a bit lonely. And I think the hardest thing with ad hoc experimentation is that if you want to learn something like, say, PowerApps, for example, is if you don't commit to it because it's ad hoc, you just end up running out of motivation, and you know, your day job will probably take over. Whereas if you do something, you know, strategic and committed, then you're actually committing at the upfront point, and hopefully you won't run out of motivation quite so quickly. Again, you know, there are lots of courses on Udemy that you can get into where it's kind of strategic and committed as well. But, you know, there's lots of support, lots of advice. You can learn, you know, all best practice, etc. But then the negative thing is a big time commitment. And, you know, you need to be aware of that. So ultimately you need to decide kind of what you want as an outcome, and which kind of level of commitment is right for you at this stage. So I did have some questions in the chat around the course that we offer. So if you are thinking of kind of that sort of strategic and committed level, then we do offer a 12-month data analytics apprenticeship, as I mentioned. We're working with over 40 different companies at the moment. It's 95 or 100% funded by government, depending whether you pay the levy or not. delivered by experts within projecting success. So we're not a training provider, we're data analytics consultancy. So we're working with a lot of companies with deploying and creating solutions for them and helping them with their strategies, and then we train. We get our kind of experts within the technical team to lean in and share their experience, etc., with the learners. This is not an apprenticeship for 18, 19-year-olds. We have a really healthy age range on the course. You do come along to the hackathons as well and bring your own problems, so there is direct wider benefit for the business. And we take cohorts every 2 months. Last year we were inspected by Ofsted and we got the highest possible score. And it does teach you all the tools below. So we looked at Python, PowerAutomate, Power BI, and PowerApps, but you also learn about Azure, SQL, Postman, Neo4j, obviously Python in a lot more detail as well, including machine learning. So you do get a lot of really helpful training. And there's a QR code there which takes you to our flyer. So please take a picture of that screen or point your camera at it if you are interested. Next cohort we're taking is the end of this month. Again, my email address is on screen if you do want to contact me. It's just my name, jamessmith@projectingsuccess.co.uk. And what I want to ask you now, so I'm conscious we've only got 12 minutes left, I believe, is what do you want to do now? So hopefully you've got a relatively good idea about what project data analytics is, and I see some of you filling this in already, which is great. But I'm asking these 3 questions, or these 3 answers to the question, what will you do now? Is this not for you? Does this not affect you for whatever reason? Maybe you're a student or whatever it might be, this doesn't affect you right now. Are you going to investigate ad hoc training? Is that the right path for you with the commitment level that you want? Or do you want to investigate something a bit more strategic and committed? Again, this is not sales, this is just, I really think the community, the project data analytics community, is all about kind of spreading awareness and learning. Like I said, the success for me is if you come along to one of our hackathons and take part in that, and we all just tell your friends, and we really make the most out of project data analytics. So I can still see some results flooding in. That's great. And what I actually want to do is, if you are in that kind of strategic and committed category, and you do want a bit more information, then please don't hesitate to place your details in the Menti. So if you want to have a catch up with me at some point, talk about the hacks, if you want to talk about some of the solutions, solutions are all hosted on what we call the Solution Center, so you can get hold of what's been done in the past. If you want me to point you towards our YouTube channel, or talk to you more about our community and our meetup events, there is a lot to talk about. Of course, if you want to talk about the apprenticeship as well, then that's not a problem. But please do put your details in there, and I will reach out to you personally, and we can either have a friendly chat via email, or we can even have a call, whatever you want, no pressure. And with that, that's everything that I'm going to talk about this afternoon. I really hope this has been helpful for you. Again, if you want to see kind of what I'm actively posting on LinkedIn, I do try and make a couple of posts a week, and again, you'll have a good idea about upcoming events, including our hackathons and meetups, etc. Okay, so I'm conscious of the time. It's just about to tick 1:30. I hope that it's been an enjoyable and insightful session for everyone. Thank you so much for your engagement and attendance this afternoon. Please, like I said, do come to our future events. Please do add me on LinkedIn, and hopefully, we can shake hands at one of our future hackathons. So thanks very much, and I'll see you all soon, hopefully.